This is also a time of change for my family.
A confidential letter discovered on King Charles's desk at Clarence House ignited an unprecedented crisis of trust, exposing how Queen Camilla had secretly carried out a backroom deal behind her husband's back. The conflict erupted from Camilla's wounded pride after a family dinner driving her into a shadow alliance with Harry and Meghan in an effort to prove her own independent power. However, no one expected that Meghan was desperately searching for every possible way to exploit her royal title in a scheme to embezzle royal funds. The storm exploded when the truth was leaked to the public, triggering a wave of furious condemnation, while King Charles was consumed with rage after uncovering evidence exposing every lie and every attempt by his daughter-in-law to twist the truth. Would King Charles's ultimate judgment and uncompromising warning be enough to stop Meghan's transatlantic profiteering, or would it push the entire royal family toward irreversible collapse and permanent division? Stay with us until the very end to uncover the full shocking truth behind this story. The silence inside Clarence House, the King's private London residence, was suddenly shattered by a shocking discovery. Resting quietly on King Charles's desk was a confidential letter whose contents carried the power to devastate the very foundation of the royal family. As the king unfolded the document, the words inside revealed a brutal truth. Queen Camilla had secretly and quietly engaged in negotiations with Harry and Meghan behind his back. This confidential letter became undeniable evidence, instantly bringing the illusion of peace to an end and marking the beginning of a deep fracture in the marriage between King Charles and Queen Camilla. The trust the king had placed in the woman who had shared his life for decades collapsed completely the moment he read the secret arrangements she had made on her own with the Sussexes. To understand what drove Queen Camilla to take such a bold and dangerous step, we must turn back the clock several weeks. During an intimate yet tense family dinner held at Windsor Castle, a heated argument erupted over the future of the Sussex household. That evening, King Charles adopted an exceptionally firm and uncompromising stance. He flatly refused to allow Harry and Meghan to participate in any of the major royal events scheduled for the coming months, cutting off every opportunity for the couple to appear publicly as representatives of the monarchy. The moment King Charles delivered his ruling queen, Camilla stepped in, attempting to persuade him and offering her own opinion in the hope of finding a gentler solution for her husband's younger son. However, King Charles responded with unmistakable firmness and icy resolve. Without hesitation, the king dismissed Camilla's opinion on the spot. What made the moment even more painful was that his rejection took place in full view of Prince William, the heir to the throne, as well as numerous senior royal officials attending the dinner. Her husband's blunt dismissal, witnessed by both her stepson and the palace's highest-ranking figures, struck a devastating blow to Camilla's pride. The queen felt humiliated, stripped of her voice, and completely pushed aside in the family's most important decisions. It was this profound sense of humiliation and deeply wounded pride during that Windsor Castle dinner that pushed Camilla toward an extreme course of action. She refused to accept that her position had been diminished. Rather than submitting to the king's decision, Camilla chose to act alone in the shadows. She was determined to prove the true reach of her influence and authority as queen consort within the royal family, demonstrating that the king had been wrong to underestimate her diplomatic abilities. It was from that growing rift that the secret alliance between Camilla, Harry, and Meghan was officially born, setting in motion another disastrous chain of mistakes. After deciding to act behind the king's back, how exactly did Queen Camilla begin her secret plan to approach Meghan and Harry? Determined to prove the true extent of her influence, Queen Camilla immediately put her plan into motion from the privacy of her own chambers, completely beyond the reach of the palace's security network. Sitting alone before the screen of her phone, she knew she was crossing an extraordinarily dangerous line. The person she chose to approach first was none other than Meghan, the sharp-minded woman living half a world away. After repeatedly weighing every word, carefully balancing the need to preserve royal dignity, while crafting an offer compelling enough to lure its recipient, Camilla secretly composed a message filled with weighty promises and sent it directly to California. The contents of the confidential message revealed a carefully orchestrated arrangement. Meghan, I understand the difficult situation the two of you are facing. If you and Harry are willing to cooperate under strict conditions of confidentiality, I promise I will use my position to exert influence, soften the king's hardline stance, and ease his attitude from within the palace itself. In return, I will find a way to restore you and Harry to official appearances at royal family events. Think carefully. This is your best opportunity. Camilla's promise to soften the king's heart from within struck the Sussex household like a lifeline. The moment Meghan shared the contents of this secret arrangement, Harry's response came swiftly and enthusiastically. Faced with the greatest opportunity he had seen since leaving the United Kingdom, Harry was visibly delighted and immediately wanted to begin cooperating with Queen Camilla. He could barely contain his excitement at the prospect of an official path forward, a secret yet powerful diplomatic channel that might allow him to turn the tide without having to humble himself by pleading with his father or with Prince William. His burning desire to return home, reclaim his former standing, and once again stand beneath the spotlight of the royal family completely clouded the judgment of the exiled prince. Because his longing to settle and work in the United Kingdom had grown so overwhelming, Harry became increasingly committed to the alliance, agreeing to follow every instruction and every arrangement that Camilla proposed behind the scenes. He was prepared to set aside his pride and move forward under the guidance of his stepmother. What made this development particularly striking was that Harry's eagerness to deepen the alliance persisted despite one undeniable truth. Deep down, he had always harbored profound suspicion and prejudice toward Camilla. The long history of tension and emotional wounds between them had never truly disappeared. He understood perfectly well that she was an exceptionally calculating woman, and that her willingness to extend a helping hand could only be driven by some personal interest of her own. Yet in this gamble with fate, his fear of being forgotten and his desperate longing to return home proved stronger than his doubts. Harry convinced himself that if it meant making his way back to Britain, joining forces with someone he fundamentally did not trust was a price worth paying. And so, through a series of carefully calculated messages exchanged in secret, the covert alliance between both sides grew even stronger, creating a ticking time bomb directly beneath King Charles's throne. Was Harry's enthusiasm about returning to Britain truly aligned with Meghan's ultimate objective, or was he unknowingly becoming nothing more than a pawn in a far darker financial scheme that his wife had been quietly orchestrating behind the scenes? Every scheme carried out in the shadows ultimately failed to remain hidden from the dense intelligence and media networks of the United Kingdom. As soon as the first reports of the secret arrangement between Queen Camilla and the Sussexes leaked to the public, a seismic wave of public outrage erupted almost instantly. Across newspapers, online, news outlets, and social media platforms, the public spoke out in unison, fiercely condemning Harry and Meghan. The anger of the British people reached an unprecedented level as they came to view the couple as selfish opportunists who constantly sought to cling to the prestige of the royal family for personal gain, despite having previously declared that they were stepping away from royal duties. Once again, Harry and Meghan's public image plunged into the abyss under the weight of widespread contempt. The moment evidence of the secret communications was exposed, King Charles moved immediately to eliminate the threat at its source. During a tense and icy confrontation inside the palace, the king formally brought his wife's unauthorized diplomatic efforts to an abrupt end. Standing face to face with a Camilla whose pride had been completely shattered, King Charles delivered a direct warning and unmistakable order. This ends immediately, Camilla.
You have neither the authority nor my permission to use this marriage or your position as queen to decide Harry and Meghan's place on your own. My refusal at Windsor was my final decision, and I forbid you from taking another single step behind my back in an attempt to overturn that ruling."
Caught by King Charles and decisively ordered to abandon her actions, Camilla understood that she had failed completely and had no remaining path forward. Unable to fulfill her promise of softening the king's heart from within, the queen had no choice but to send a bitter message to California, informing them that her attempt to persuade the king had officially been rejected, and that the plan to restore Harry and Meghan to royal events had collapsed entirely.
When news of the failed effort arrived at the Montecito estate, the reaction was anything but acceptance. It was an explosion of unrestrained fury. Meghan was absolutely enraged because every calculation she had made to salvage the situation had suddenly dissolved into nothing. Refusing to become the one left to bear the consequences or lose face, Meghan immediately began planning a ruthless act of retaliation. She quickly leveraged her influence and her network of trusted media contacts to unleash a barrage of malicious rumors across the global press. Through carefully planted anonymous sources and discreetly circulated statements, Meghan launched direct and forceful accusations aimed squarely at the monarchy. Her retaliatory declaration spread rapidly across major news outlets. The entire story about a secret agreement, or our alleged attempt to negotiate a return, is nothing more than a completely fabricated deception. It was the British royal family that invented this entire agreement from beginning to end, creating a fictional narrative solely to damage my reputation, tarnish my honor, and cruelly turn Meghan into the target of public attacks. Meghan's media offensive was far more than a simple denial. It was a bucket of ice water poured directly over the palace's efforts to contain the crisis. By transforming herself from the mastermind into a victim supposedly oppressed by the royal family, Meghan ignited an entirely new and deeply chaotic battle for public opinion. This reckless wave of accusations drove tensions between both sides to their highest point, forcing those inside London to reassess the true nature of this dangerous relationship and prepare for an even more devastating final showdown. After Meghan's fiercely aggressive media counterattack, how will King Charles and Queen Camilla confront each other when faced with the truth, and what will Camilla do to prove that she was not the only mastermind behind this web of deception? Meghan's aggressive media offensive, combined with the growing wave of public criticism, pushed the atmosphere inside the palace to an unbearable level of tension. Behind the closed doors of the king's private study, a tense and emotionally charged confrontation erupted between the royal couple. King Charles stood beside his desk with a cold expression, his eyes filled with disappointment, as he fixed a stern gaze on his wife, demanding a satisfactory explanation for this devastating breach of trust. Faced with her husband's fury and his uncompromising questions, Queen Camilla realized that any verbal defense would now be meaningless. To protect her own honor and prove that she had not been the mastermind behind this web of deception, Camilla made a decisive choice. She chose to reveal the ultimate piece of confidential evidence, a desperate email that Meghan herself had personally sent to her, laying the entire truth bare for all to see. With trembling hands, she opened the file and placed the printed copy of the email directly on the king's desk. In a silence so profound that every breath could be heard, Meghan's words appeared before them, filled with desperate pleas that unmistakably revealed the panic and utter desperation consuming the Sussex household from across the Atlantic. "Your Majesty, Queen Camilla, I am writing this letter to you in an extremely urgent situation with no other choice left. Our business ventures and projects in the United States are facing a severe decline. Our financial resources have been completely exhausted, and we have fallen into an unprecedented deadlock.
We are being pushed into an impossible situation where the reputation and career we have spent years building risk collapsing completely unless someone intervenes in time. I sincerely beg you, as the person with the greatest influence beside His Majesty the King, to open your heart and help us through this darkest chapter. Please use your influence to persuade the King and find a pathway that will allow us to return to royal family events. This is the only way to save us from our current crisis. Please save us before it is too late. Every sentence, every word in Meghan's email exposed a reality that stood in complete contradiction to the arrogant public statements and calculated distortions she had previously spread through the media. Gone was the image of an independent and powerful duchess. Instead, this email became the clearest possible proof that Meghan herself had been pulling the strings all along, the very person who had humbled herself by seeking Camilla's help in order to use the monarchy as an economic lifeline. Her desperate plea for Camilla to rescue her from an impossible situation now stood completely exposed beneath the piercing gaze of King Charles. This crucial piece of evidence did more than alter the course of the confrontation between the King and Queen. It directly exposed the true face of the media offensive aimed at the royal family. Camilla remained silent, turning her eyes toward her husband, as if to affirm that she herself had been nothing more than a pawn manipulated by Meghan's cunning and desperation. The appearance of the pleading email shifted every ounce of guilt and deception back to its true source in California, while simultaneously igniting an even greater fury within the head of the monarchy, who now possessed ironclad evidence with which to deliver the ultimate judgment. Faced with undeniable proof of Meghan's deception and exploitation, how will King Charles place the transatlantic phone call that will determine the fate of the Sussex household once and for all? After witnessing the full contents of the pleading email sent from California, the truth behind the elaborate scheme of deception and exploitation of the royal family was laid completely bare before the head of the monarchy. The evidence filled King Charles with overwhelming fury. The anger burning inside him was no longer quiet disappointment. It had transformed into an unprecedented determination to deliver swift, cold, and uncompromising punishment. Without relying on any aid, private secretary or intermediary through the media, the king decided to deal with the threat personally and eliminate it at its source. He immediately picked up the phone, established a secure transatlantic call, and contacted Meghan directly for a face-to-face confrontation, determined to extinguish every illusion of profit and advantage that the Sussexes still clung to. The moment the line connected, King Charles gave Meghan no opportunity whatsoever to explain herself, offer excuses, or resort to any of her familiar tactics. Instead, he spoke with the absolute authority of a reigning monarch. His voice was low-cold and razor-sharp as he delivered an uncompromising warning directly to his rebellious daughter-in-law. "Be silent and listen carefully, Meghan. The disgraceful pleading email you sent to Camilla in an attempt to embezzle royal funds and profit from your royal title is now sitting on my desk. Your game of twisting the truth and playing the victim while spreading falsehoods through the media officially ends here. I am issuing you this final warning. From this moment forward, you will never, under any circumstances, attempt to contact, reconnect with, or interfere with any member of the British royal family again. Every ounce of tolerance has been exhausted." The instant he finished delivering his stern declaration, King Charles immediately ended the call, refusing to give Meghan even a single second to respond. His fury was quickly translated into decisive action. To ensure that his warning would be enforced without exception, King Charles exercised the full extent of his royal authority, mobilizing the monarchy's security and technological networks to sever every possible line of communication between the Sussex household and the royal family. Every personal phone number, confidential email address, internal communication system, and diplomatic channel that Harry and Meghan had previously been able to use to reach the palace was completely disabled overnight. Every gateway connecting them to the British monarchy was officially slammed shut before them.
This devastating punishment, combined with the exposure of the true nature of Meghan's pleading email, pushed her into total collapse. That collapse unfolded on every level, destroying not only her public reputation, but also any remaining chance of rescuing her struggling business ventures in the United States. Stripped of the ability to cling to the royal family as an economic lifeline, Meghan's financially troubled brands were left completely cut off from their last source of hope. With her deception exposed, she could no longer portray herself as a victim in the eyes of the public, while every remaining opportunity to rebuild her career in the future was firmly shut. The elaborate scheme orchestrated by the mastermind behind the secret arrangement had finally reached its bitter conclusion, bringing this dark chapter to a close with complete isolation and utter collapse in the shadows of failure. How do you feel about Meghan's deliberate manipulation behind the scenes and Queen Camilla's decision to act alone out of wounded pride in this storyline? In your opinion, what lesson or message does the collapse of this secret alliance offer about trust and honesty in relationships? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You'll enjoy it.